Okay, part two of questions from Twitter. Cav TRF. He's taking two questions here, so I'll do them one at a time. Do you use exchanges much?
Yeah, every day, every day, every single day. Yeah, once the racing starts, like sometimes I have bets in the morning and that. Other a lot of times, sometimes I don't, and it's all exchange business. A lot of it is 95% of my stuff is exchange business from then on.
Okay, and also from Cav TRF. Have you got any worries as you get older about relying on such a tough and precarious business for a significant part of your income? Did you say in your experience what percent? Okay, there's another. Yeah, that bit first. He's got another question after that.
Yeah, I absolutely would. Like one time, I wouldn't have been a bit worried about because I didn't consider it precarious, but in the last 4 or 5 years, I found it precarious enough to be honest, and it's much more of a struggle than it was. And like, look, not as I say, nothing lasts forever, and I mean, you can only get so much out of a certain thing, I think, anyway. And look, I haven't that long more to go. Though, if I could get another 6 or 7 or 8 years, I'd be heading for 60, and that'd do me. Like, you know what I mean? So uh, I'd be hoping to get those number of years out of it. Maybe that won't even materialize. But as regards the precarious side of it, oh definitely, yeah. And like one time, I used to worry, but no, not that I'm more up every night of the week, like tossing and turning over here. But it is it is a bit of a challenge. And as I said, I'm nowhere near as short a price as I would be to win in a year now as I would have been 10 or 15 years ago at the same time.
Okay, and the final part of his question, could you say in your experience what percentage of inside information is reliable in terms of betting probability?
Look, I suppose inside information, if you think it's reliable, you deal with people, and if it's pretty reliable or on a fairly consistent basis, I mean that's a pretty difficult question to answer really. But look, if it's reliable on a consistent basis, you tend to go with it all the time. And if a guy's coming up with stuff that he says is inside information or whatever, and it's not accurate, you kind of move him to one side and say, look, I'll deal me out in future, that kind of stuff. So look, not it's never going to be 100% reliable ever, never ever. No, even in the best will in the world, it's not going to be. And there is always going to be situations when people are telling you what they think is the truth and it's not. So I'm happy if the person that's telling me, if even if he's telling me a mistruth, if he thinks it is the truth, that'll do me, because there will be times when people are, including myself, are deliberately misled by others. And like I could be told something that would be absolutely a complete untruth from someone that I would expected otherwise. I'd relay it on to someone else, but I would put him wrong, then myself wrong as well. But at least I was telling what I thought was the truth. There is a difference between that and somebody like being telling you a downright lie. And they're the kind of guys that you kind of shift away if you can, because you will sense who's telling you lies and who's not.
Okay, thank you. This is from Racing Trends, and he says Johnny mentions races that our Lord would never bet in, presumably big field handicaps. How did he find those races versus graded races and maidens when you were laying on course?
Yeah, look, I mean, when I started making a book first or whatever, the bulk, I love the handicaps, tough races. I love tough handicaps to make a book in, and fillies races. I like mares races, um, because I always thought you had a better chance with get the filly beat rather than a colt, or a mare rather than a horse. Saying that, the likes of William Mullins booked that trend because they could seem to do what they like with mares and colt or geldings or whatever. It made no difference in the finish because their mares were as robust and a solid form. They'd never go out of form. Whereas a lot of the time mares would be in season and they wouldn't give their running in the different stables, and that you could get any kind of a mare beat in a race. I used personally, I'd be shunning like the maidens, maiden hurdles, flat maidens. Wouldn't be that mad about making the book. Sometimes there'd be one you'd repeat that you'd say, look, I'll take a chance and might lay this. But look, I used to love the handicaps, but at that stage there was good betting in handicaps. There was a much better spread. At the end, when I was betting in handicaps, there was 6 to feed. You might just lay one horse, and that was no good either because I mean, you'd only have to win 1 in 7, like as say a 6 to 1 to field chance. and you were doing no good, and they were winning it with more regularity than that. But when there was big handicaps, when there was good betting, I used to like them. They were at the races I used to angle towards as a bookie.
Okay, thank you. Thornton 1155. Does Johnny put low price lays in running to cover his stake? And if so, at what point near the finish will he cancel it so as not to get picked off by the fast pitchers? Do you think that's a profitable strategy long term?
No, I used to. I did that once or twice. I've look for the one time it'll click for you. There's 25 times it won't. You'll either not get matched, or you'll get matched at a price that you would have backed it anyway with somebody else. You know what I mean? Even if you were already on it, that's the way I'd look at it. Um, it's almost like, to me, it's like you're leaving a bet up for someone to have a look at it. It's like playing poker with someone and you're not looking at your cards. Do you know what I'm saying? He can see whether he wants to play with you, but you can't see what you have. So to me, look, it may be okay for small stakes, and it is like when you get your money back, or you win in a race when you should have lost. It probably is pretty satisfying for a lot of people. But if you're playing for bigger stakes, I think you'll only get matched when the race is almost over. Like if you're doing it for fivers and tenors and scores, maybe it mightn't be a bad system. Maybe, I don't know, for some people. But if you're doing it for bigger stakes, I'd say it's madness on the round of the year, because you'll be matched at, just so you put into late 1.4 for something, so like a four-figure sum. They'd only match you when it is about two legs up in the weighing scales, in my eyes anyway. So like I wouldn't be interested in leaving doing that kind of stuff anymore. I find now, if you get beat, you get beat, and if you win, you win, and you just have to leave it run away, because you are giving away a bit of profit. Invariably, you'll give away a lot of profit doing that in the round of the year.
Okay, thanks. BJ Shark 7. Do all the big bookmakers have informants or spies in the big racing stables, and do they employ gallop watchers?
I wouldn't know about the Gallop watches, but I presume they have leads into stables. Maybe not so much fellas working there, but I'd say they have leads from fellas that bet out of the yards, and like I'd say that they get a lot of valuable leads from accounts. I mean, if just say, I'll make up a situation where Varian and Stout have two horses in a maiden in Newmarket, and they both say 7-4, and suddenly somebody that should be back in Varian's horses is having his few quid on stouts. I mean, that's a bit of a lead for that bookie, surely. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa, or whatever. Or if he's £100 man and suddenly he's having 400 on it, or something like that. Or if he's £100 man and he's only having a tenner on it. All those little things are leads for bookies. Whether they have actual guys in the yards, I'd probably guess they don't. And I'd say they definitely wouldn't have fellas out 5 o'clock in the morning looking at gallops anyway. You know what I mean? I'd imagine that's not on their agenda. But I'd say that a lot of the information they pick up is from their accounts. And like, it's not rocket science. If you have a fella that's backs whoever, or betting for an owner or whatever, and he does something out of the ordinary, that's the point to show you that a bookmaker can go with.
This is a similar line, but from the other side of the fence. At Brad Maxley, and he stresses, as much as you're comfortable with to answer this, he's interested in hearing more about how valuable information can be and some examples. Do punters commonly, how I assume he means professional punters, commonly have people in yards that they, in inverted commas, work with?
Yeah, look, every guy has, like, will have somebody that he'll know in a few different stables. And look, so if I know one or two guys in two different yards, and a pals of mine know a guy or two in two or three other, that maybe half a dozen yards covered, and maybe somebody else has the same. So you could have 8 or 9 yards covered between three different people. But then these guys have got to be reliable, then, you know what I mean? And sometimes they're not, and sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. Look, and then you can look, a lot of the stuff. I think the difference between listening to people is filtering it out yourself. And I'd say most fellas that punt the way I do don't actually go with any fella in a yard. But what they will do is, if they make a race, a 2 horse race, and they fancy the horse in that guy's yard, they want to like a seal of approval, I should say, maybe, or something like that from him, or maybe vice versa. If they fancy the other one, they're hoping that he gives them a little bit of a negative. I always find that negatives for horses are probably better than positives. So if you were thinking A and the guy in yard B is saying, look, he's not mad about his horse, then you probably have to go for your guns on the horse A, then that kind of way. That's probably going to be a lot more valuable to any punter than a fella sticking his chest out and saying, "Ah, we'll win," because a lot of guys they think they'll win nearly every race. You know what I mean, in these yards. So you're better off getting negatives for ones, I find, than probably a positive.
Okay, Moorhampton 12. Would Johnny give up if he only had access to the exchange?
If I only had which
Access to the exchange. Betfair, I assume he means.
um look, I'd give up. Look, I think I would give up if I only had access to a bad exchange. Do you know what I mean? If I only had access to, there are a couple of exchanges, and where there's one in particular I wouldn't work with anyway. I don't think anyone could win in them. I don't think you could anyway. But look, I'll try to hang in there as long as possible anyway. You know what I mean? But the exchange is one of the few places where you can actually probably win nowadays. You know, if it's not that easy to win off of bookies and betting shops. It's not easy. It's not going to be that easy to win off bookies at the races, and using people to bet for you is not that easy. Aside from commission agents, like I hear, I've done it myself. Like I've seen fellas say, "Oh, I had an account with a guy, and there was X in it, and he lost it all in Swindon Dogs last Friday night." You know what I mean? And like I'm looking and saying, like, it'd be the same thing as you saying to a guy, "Could you get me a bottle of whiskey?" A raving alcoholic and say, "Hang on to it for a week for me." Do you know what I mean? Like you know he's going to drink it, and these guys are going to lose. The reason they can bet in these accounts is because they're going to lose it back, and that's why they can bet. Other people can bet through them, in a lot of instances. So, like, if you get caught in those instances, you've nothing to you've only yourself to blame for, I think, anyway. But look, I'm hoping to hang in as long as possible. However long that will be, I do not know. I'd be hoping to get 7 or 8 years more out of it. But if I wasn't able to bet at a decent level, I wouldn't bet at all. Definitely not. No, I wouldn't bet. Like I wouldn't bet. Go down and do a £1 lucky 15 of a Saturday. I wouldn't, if I wasn't betting properly. Do you know what I mean? I would have no interest in the world in doing that anyway. And actually, the COVID, when it did come, when we were missing racing for 5 or 6 weeks, it actually showed me that I could actually live without having a bet, which I thought I probably couldn't before that. I mean, so it was a bit of an eye opener that way, that COVID thing.